Do you know that your mindset is a habit? Your sense of personal power is a habit. The quality of your relationships is an outcome of your interpersonal habits. Your net worth is based on your money habits. Your business success is built on your entrepreneurial habits. Your ability to create everything you desire is directly related to your habits. So I'm glad you're here right now listening to the Max Potential Habits podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Amanda Barrientes, the founder of NFA Coaching, and every week I'll bring you tips, tools, and inspirational interviews that will help you learn how to cultivate strategic habits that will set you up to be a NFA habits master so you can create the life and business of your dreams on your terms. Now let's get to it. Hello. Welcome back, everyone, or welcome for the first time. Today we have an incredible show. You're going to want to stick around all the way until the end because we have a powerhouse, really masterful entrepreneur, business builder, coach, someone who has helped a company that most of us have heard of grow to over $100 million in revenue. Today, we're going to talk about understanding the key stages of business development and how when you understand the stage that you're at in business development, it helps you to build intentionally along the way. Brett Gilliland is actually going to help you walk step by step through a stages process to understand how you can build intentionally. And there's going to be an awesome offer at the end so that you can connect with him and see where you're at in your business building adventures. As a solopreneur all the way up to a larger business, we're even going to talk about that, how small business, the term small business is sometimes a buzzword that people either like or don't like, and they don't understand where they are in the process. So this episode is going to be filled with a ton of value, so stick around. Right now, I want to introduce Brett. I feel so honored that he's here. Brett has experience in high-impact, trusted advisor roles in both large and small organizations across multiple industries. He has worked with hundreds of $1 to $10 million entrepreneurs and their teams to develop and implement the organizational and leadership processes and systems they need to grow. As the original leader of Infusionsoft's Built to Last efforts, Brett spent 10 years helping Infusionsoft grow from less than 10 million to over 100 million in revenue. Brett's roles at Infusionsoft included Built to Last champion, strategic advisor to the CEO, VP of Infusionsoft, and VP of leadership development. Brett also co-created the elite programs with Infusionsoft's CEO, Clay Mask. When he isn't busy serving elite businesses, Brett loves family life with his beautiful wife, Sharon, and get this, their 8 children. Let's welcome Brett to the show today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. B. I appreciate the intro. And what makes me uniquely qualified to help small businesses is that we run one at our house, right? We've got all those kiddos. So yep, you gotta have the organizational savvy, the complexities at home and at work.
I love that. You know, when I work with my small businesses, we often talk about the mimicking of family systems and business systems. And so, yeah, you definitely have, what is it? How many are on a basketball team? I'm so not versed in this world, but you have
five on the court. Yeah,
okay, five on the court. I've watched a lot of basketball, but I always forget that number. So you have a basketball team with a lot of backups. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure what's the age spread?
So our youngest are twins, actually. They just turned 11, and our oldest is 21. So we packed them all in there, but it's fun.
You are
never a dull moment.
Okay, this is great. Thanks. I when I read that in your bio, I thought, okay, you are a very busy man, building businesses, running a family, enjoying life. Tell me a little bit how you got started in this world in terms of business building.
Yeah. I think I know what you meant.
Childhood, if you want.
Yeah. So how we got started in this world of helping small businesses succeed is really went back to what I saw in big companies. So I worked in big companies for a little while, and I saw a lot of dysfunction. And I spent a lot of time helping big companies figure out how to restructure and, let people go and get more efficient. And I had studied organization development, organizational behavior in my master's program. And, I was out to go help companies grow, not to kind of consolidate and let people go. So I jumped out on my own and started consulting, and really just a few clients into my consulting business, I came across a little company called Infusionsoft, and I started doing work with them as a consultant for about 9 months. And then after that period of time, Clayton and I just looked at each other and were like, okay, it's time to make this official. And so that's when I joined as their, I don't know, my official title was like Director of Built to Last. Because we were big Jim Collins fans. I still am a big Jim Collins fan.
Yeah.
And we were,
don't know.
Yeah, Built to Last is a great read. And really it's just, how are the best companies built? And so we intended to build Infusionsoft to be that type of company from the get-go, at least early on. And so that's what we went to work doing. And in the process, we were growing well. We created a great award-winning culture. We were attracting great talent. I mean, it was just a really, really great ride. And then some of our customers who were small businesses themselves, and we had thousands and later 10,000s of small businesses that we were serving with software, and they saw the success we were having in our Built to Last efforts, and they started asking us to teach them. And so we built a little business inside of Infusionsoft. This elite business was born inside of Infusionsoft, and we ran it there for about 6 years and started teaching not just principles, but we would teach some concepts, and then we would workshop with them on their own business, and we would give them our playbook, all of our examples from having done it ourselves. It was just really resource-rich sort of approach, and they loved it. And so anyway, we started doing that 7+ years ago, and then last year, Infusionsoft decided to be a software-only company and not do some of these other ancillary types of things. And I said, well, that's where my heart and passion is. I'm going back to helping, 7-figure businesses, not $100 million businesses, scale. So we spun it out. I bought it, and now Elite Entrepreneurs is on its own. But it's really been in existence for about 7 years, and that's how it all started.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So, and I realized that when I introduced you, I forgot to announce that you're the co-founder and CEO of Elite Entrepreneurs. And so in Elite Entrepreneurs, as you've created it, it sounds like it was born out of your work at Infusionsoft. And then you really wanted to focus on those 7-figure businesses and helping them scale to the next level.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. And we learned about, and we'll share this later in our time together, but we learned about the stages. There's some very unique stages of business growth, and there's a pattern in there that we'll talk about. And we know quite a bit about all the stages up through really our own experience up through 100 million. However, there's this spot between 1 million and 10 million where entrepreneurs get stuck, like superhuman entrepreneur throws the business on their back. They scrape, they claw, they make it happen. They get to 1 million, somewhere between 1 and 3 million, they typically get stuck. And that's what I'm passionate about, is helping them understand the skill sets and the mindsets and the tool sets to go from 7 figures to that 10 million and beyond mark. So that's the place that I love to play. We're going to talk about a broader set of stages here on this call together, but yeah, I love playing in that 7-figure space, but what I share today will be useful to anybody who listens.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm wondering, and for all of you listening, Brett and I got to have a pre-show chat, and we talked another time, and he showed me his stages map that he's going to walk us through, and understanding these stages. And it's really cool because from what you shared with me just on that short call, I realized that it's similar to individual money blocks. So you get to a certain level, and then there's that ceiling that you have a really hard time breaking through. And like you're saying, it's due to mindset, perspectives, probably strategies, systems, tools that are in place, and helping fine tune all of those. And I would imagine that, I can't wait to hear what you're going to teach us, but there's these similar patterns across the course of breaking through those different barriers and those marks in business development. Is that what you've experienced?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's well said. In fact, there's so many parallels. You talked specifically about money, but there's so many parallels between personal effectiveness and organizational effectiveness. And I'm an organizational effectiveness geek, right? So that's where I spend all of my time.
Mm-hmm.
But the personal effectiveness parallels are uncanny. And, to boil it all the way down, for a person, for somebody to have max potential habits, for a person to be effective, they've got to be intentional and they've got to be disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, overly simplify the whole thing. They got to get really clear about their intention, what they want to go do, and then they've got to be disciplined and set up their life in a way that's going to optimize the chance of achieving it, right? Well, an organization is no different. They've got to be intentional, and then they got to set up the systems and the meeting rhythms and the ways to translate that vision or intentionality into actual reality, right? So that's very similar paths. Yep.
Love that. Okay. Walk us through. I can't wait to get down and deep in this. Walk us through. So for those of you listening, of course, you don't have access to what we're looking at right now. If you want to access it right now as you're listening, what would they do if they wanted to follow along real time?
Yeah, so if they're on their mobile device, all they have to do is text the word stages, that's STAGES, the word stages, like stages of small business growth, to 72,000, so 72000. If they text the word stages to 72,000, they'll get access to the PDF that we're going to be reviewing and talking about together.
Awesome. So, of course, if you're listening, do that right now. This will really help you see in a visual way what Brett is going to talk about and explain right now.
Yeah, so we'll do our best for those who are, they're driving or they're doing the workout and they're just listening to this awesome podcast to describe it. But like Amanda said, you can get it yourself either now or later. So the stages, like I mentioned earlier, this is just an attempt to outline for people a little bit of a "you are here" map. And I got to give credit. I can't take the credit. I'm not the originator of this content. You'll still see, those of you who get this, you'll see Infusionsoft on there, because Clayton Mask, my good friend and co-founder of this elite business, who's still the CEO of the company that's now called Keep, Infusionsoft rebranded to Keep. Anyway, he did all the original research behind this. And then, of course, we had resources at Infusionsoft where we could get some creative team help to make it look nice. But
real quick, Brett, I just realized that maybe not everybody knows what Infusionsoft is. Will you just give a real quick recap of what they do?
Yeah, sure. So again, Infusionsoft rebranded earlier this year to the company is now called Keep. It's spelled KEAP, and Keep is small business CRM. I mean, if you think of it that way, it's kind of like Salesforce for small businesses, but it's your all-in-one. It's got your CRM, all your marketing and sales automation, tons of integrations with other great apps and providers out there to help a small business grow. Right, so it's sales and marketing automation to help you grow. It's all built around a CRM system. So if you search for Infusionsoft, they still have Infusionsoft, the product, which is more of a powerhouse, customizable version, and then Keep is a simpler version that has it has some power of automation, but it's a lot simpler for less marketing savvy or less tech savvy business owners.
Okay.
All right, so thank you for that. Yeah, so this was born out of Clay's passion and fire for understanding and serving small businesses. I don't know another person on the planet who loves and serves small businesses the way that he does, and the company that he has built is dedicated to that purpose of helping small businesses succeed. Of course, because I already had an alignment to that in my own personal purpose, but because I spent 10 years there in that space and helping to grow that company, obviously I share a bunch of that passion. So Clayton and I have shared this stages document countless times, and it's really cool because it doesn't matter where we share this. It can be in a small group setting, it can be in a larger conference, it can be on a different continent. Wherever this is shared, it resonates with small business owners because there's almost like some unwritten or unknown laws of small business. And the one that I'm going to talk about right now is this law of revenue. The pattern is on the ones and threes of revenue as you grow, there's a stage change. So for example, when you first start out as a solopreneur, you're in solopreneur stage until you get to 100,000 in revenue. And between 100,000 and 300,000 in revenue, we call that the new employer. Right? Maybe you can hire a couple people now to help you continue to grow this thing. Then between 300,000 and a million, we call it steady operation. And you've got a larger team. Maybe you're in the 4 to 10 employees at that place. Then we hit that magical 7-figure business place that I was talking about earlier, somewhere between 1 and 3 million in revenue, and you're in the 11 to 25 employee space. You start to have some new challenges, but every on the ones and threes, so 100,000, 300,000, 1 million, 3 million, 10 million, 30 million, so on. The pattern continues, and as you'll notice, roughly you're tripling every time, right? Whether it's going from 300,000 to a million or 1 to 3, you're tripling in your business, and the processes and systems and actually the people involved in your business need to upgrade to enable that next level of growth. So you're having to figure out what is the next right combination of people, processes, and systems that allow me to go to the next stage. So that's the high-level overview of the stages and the pattern of revenue in annual sales that we see. So a lot of business owners will just like to get this thing and look at it like a "you are here" map, right? They just kind of look at it and go, where am I in this thing? And of course, they knew where they were in revenue. They knew where they were in employee count. But this gives them a feel for where they are in relationship to the rest of these stages. And for some people, they like to look at the number of these businesses in the U.S. We have that count on here. So for example, there's 16 million side job solopreneurs, 6 million self-employed people in the U.S. that the government knows about, right? So there's even more than that, but there's approximately 22 million in that space. Well, if you're going to make it to 100,000 in revenue, now you're down to 1.7 million. So there's only a fraction of those initial businesses that get to 1.7. There's a similar number in steady operation. There's 1.9 million. And then at 7 figures, it drops off. Only 700,000 businesses that ever start in the U.S. of the current existing ones get to that 7-figure business mark. In percentage terms, that's 93% of businesses never get to a million. And again, if you take into account all the ones the government does not know about, it's more like 3% of businesses that ever start. Only 3% ever get to a million. And then the ones that get to 3 million are even less than that, less than half of those. So you start to get into some elite space, why we call it elite entrepreneurs. So that's kind of the orientation for each of the stages. But the most interesting thing that I think your listeners will want to clue in on is the biggest hurdle, or what we've since started to talk about as the key success factor for getting to the next stage. So if you're a solopreneur, as a side job, you got to master your time, right? You got to figure out how to juggle everything. It's a time management game. But then if you move into this thing as self-employed, this is what I'm going to rely on for my living. Then it's about, I've mastered my time management enough. Now I've got to get enough leads. I've got to have enough leads to maintain this. In stage 2, it's about learning to sell. If you can't sell anything, then you're not going to be able to grow. Stage 3, it goes into marketing and service or fulfillment. So do I have repeatable systems for customer acquisition and then fulfilling what I sold, right? That's the simpler way to talk about that. And then when you bump up into 7 figures, stage 4 and stage 5, now we're talking about all the things that I love to do and talk about, which is the organization development stuff, the leadership, the strategy, the culture, the team development. All of that stuff starts to really be key success factors for moving on into 10 million and beyond. So I'm sorry, I just really kind of just.
No, that was incredible. And I am sitting here looking at this as Brett's walking through it, and definitely, absolutely everyone go gain access to this because it is so powerful. I'm loving every stage that I'm seeing different people that I work with, including myself, on this map. You can definitely, it's a You Are Here map. And one thing I want to talk to you about a little bit that we talked about pre-show for a second was even just the definition of a small business. I don't think most people would think that a 100 employee company is considered a small business. So will you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Sometimes I skip over key things just because you kind of have that curse of knowledge. So,
yeah.
There are different vendors out there. There's government entities that claim that they're trying to help small businesses, but some of their definitions go all the way up to like 500 employees. And so they'll say, we've got this small business development center, this small business support, or these programs, and they're talking about companies that have 100 and 500 employees. And that doesn't feel like what many of us are experiencing when we're in that 2 to 3 employees, or 5 to 10, or 11 to 20. It feels like a whole different universe. So what Clayt wanted to do by breaking this down was help people see, no, each of these stages is distinct in their needs, distinct in the actual things they're dealing with. Therefore, the solutions that they need help with are unique. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that you understand for yourself, what stage am I in? Because the vendors, the partners, the consultants, the government programs, none of them are very good about articulating the differences in these stages. Mm-hmm. And so you'll have a hard time plugging into them if you're not super aware of them yourself. Yeah. So you need to get aware of them yourself, and then you can help to, this will help you filter opportunities to get help out there, because you'll be able to see, are their programs really speaking to companies my size, or are they speaking to larger small businesses?
Yeah, this is brilliant. I love this map. It's so visually, it gives such clarity to how those processes and stages work. And it's amazing to me how much information you can pack into one table. Even thinking about that transition between, okay, I'm a solopreneur and it's a side gig or a side hustle. And then all of a sudden there's this, so on the map, there's a quit the day job section, where there's a break in that number one stage from solopreneur, where it's a side job going this full-time self-employed. And I want to highlight for the listeners too, that, some of you on here, you're running your own business, and it might be a B2B, you might be a coach. I don't know what it is that you're doing, but this map will not only help you see where you are, but also who your target market is. So if you're working as a self-employed solopreneur in stage 1, and you're wanting to work with a stage 5 company, it's going to be an interesting jump because you haven't done it yourself. So knowing that your target market is probably going to be somewhere in the stage 1 or 2 for you as you grow, and then you might up level as you play a larger game, as you learn the ropes and you break through these stages yourself. Would you agree with that, Brett?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a very great insight, because I compete with other businesses, programs out there who say, yeah, we'll help you scale your business, and a lot of this kind of certified coaches and presenters out there of those various programs haven't actually been through these stages, so they don't really know the nuance. They've got some great content, they have some great ideas, but they haven't lived these stages, and so it's really hard for them to relate to those business owners in a way that can help them connect powerfully. So it's one of our strong suits, because just because we have this understanding, and two, because we've experienced each of these stages.
Yeah. And so, and you can work, so you work with stage 4 and 5 companies, but your favorite
is... specialize in stage 4 and 5.
Okay.
But we've certainly talked to and helped lots of other businesses out there. After stage 5, it's not like the stages stop just because my infographic cuts off there. The first version of this, we had 7 stages. It had the 10 to 30 mark and the 30 million to 100.
Wow.
But the people we were serving weren't up in that space, so we just cut it off. But this is the relevant portion of it for everybody we're dealing with. So let's just leave it at that for now.
Yeah. Will you talk a little bit at the very beginning of, or sorry, at the bottom of the infographic, it says start, run, scale. So these are the jumps. Will you describe that a little bit, and give a little more information there?
Sure. And that's just meant to help categorize a little, to put some buckets to what these stages are about. Everybody knows the startup phase. It's a grind. It's stressful. I mean, every stage has some elements of difficulty and stress, but that startup one, I don't have to talk much about that. So I won't. But then
we all know the hustle that's required.
The hustle, the grind. It's like road rash on your face all the time, right? So that's the startup phase. Once you get to where, okay, now I have something that's a little more stable, right? Now we're running a business. In stages 2 and 3, we kind of bucket those together. That 100,000 to $1 million. Now I'm running the business, and it's not necessarily easier there. It's just that you're not on like survival mode every second of the day, and maybe you start to have some other people to help take some load off of you. Well, at stage 4 and 5, now we call that the scale phase, and that's where you got to make a big transition from run to scale. You're transitioning from entrepreneur to CEO. Whether or not you've ever called yourself an entrepreneur, whether or not you've ever called yourself or want to call yourself CEO, whatever word you put to it, you're going from like, I've got my arms around the whole thing, to I've got to figure out how to set a clear enough vision with my team in a way that I can enroll them and start to give ownership with accountability to others. So I can start to raise up out of the day-to-day, do more working on the business, right? All the kind of cliche things that we say out there, not just working in the business, but on the business. But you have to become a leader of people, and then eventually a leader of leaders. And if you don't know how to build the systems for your organization to scale, your business taps out at your ability to keep your arms around the whole thing and run it yourself.
This is brilliant. And it's so powerful because I'm thinking you're absolutely right. In the solopreneur stage, you're going from managing yourself, managing your time, starting to have product or service validation, you're hustling, you're figuring everything out. And then you move to that next level where you start to have a smaller team. But I'm really thinking about at that level 4 and 5, where you have a huge team. If you don't know how to delegate and you don't know how to powerfully lead, and I love how you said be a leader of leaders. So you've already got to be the one modeling that organizational structure and know what to implement. And if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to be able to take it to the next level. But that starts at stage 1. If you're not a master of yourself, a master of time, a master becoming either delegating well for somebody to start the marketing and revenue system, or which in and of itself takes you being a good leader and starting to practice that skill set if you ever want to scale to the 7-figure level.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So it's not necessarily rocket science, but entrepreneurs are figuring this thing out, right? You start a business, you're like you said earlier, you're hustling, you're doing everything just one step at a time. Even if you have a longer term vision, you're still having to figure out the day-to-day. How do I make this happen? At some point, you figured out marketing. You had to figure out sales enough to keep this thing going. You had to figure out marketing enough to have predictable customer acquisition. You had to figure out service or fulfillment of your product delivery in a way that's consistent and that the customers are happy with. So you had to figure out all these things, but it was mostly it didn't require a ton of people leadership at that point, and it didn't require a ton of organization development savvy at that point. It was all about like how to actually tactically do some things and build a few systems. And now you're getting to a place where it all starts to switch over to vision and strategy and leadership and organization development. and it's a new world. And it's not that you can't figure it out. What I hate when I see, and we see this all too often, I hate when I see that a successful business gets to 7 figures, the business owner doesn't know how to go forward. And so what happens? They may spike up, maybe they drag this thing to 2 or 3 million without actually doing the work that is required. And then invariably it pulls back. It pulls back to the level that they've sort of mastered, right? And so they'll dip their toe in, or they'll try to get into 7 figures, and they'll be there for a little while, and then the business owner can't keep it all together, and then it pulls back. Or they try to dress it up as pretty as they can, and they sell it. They're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to burn out or die, or my relationships, my money. I was making more money when it was less complex, less challenging. Back at 500,000 in revenue, I was making more money. So I'm going to go back to that, because this isn't worth it. I'm killing myself to try to make this thing go.
Yeah. So what would you say at that moment helps them break through to take it to that next level in a way that's more effective?
Well, to circle back to where we started kind of at the beginning, when we talked about the parallels between personal and organizational effectiveness, they have to get really intentional as a business, and not just the leader, right? But the team. You got to get the team aligned to a powerful vision, and then you got to get the discipline and the accompanying rhythms in place to execute on that vision. So you got to get out of daily firefighting and fight, the whirlwind, so to speak, and start getting more intentional and more disciplined. And then you can start to organize work in a way where we can start to delegate some ownership with accountability to some team members, not just employees that are necessary evil, right? You got to make a mind shift there. You got to change your mindset as well. A lot of business owners see employees as like this weight. It's just a heavy weight, right? Every payroll is stressful. And you have to get to a place where you see those people as enabling the future, as creating it with you. So you got to change to creating a future together and enrolling them in a process of defining what that would look like, and then again the meeting rhythms and the processes to go execute against that.
I love that. It's made me think about even I'm at the beginning stages of my business. And so thinking about enrolling the people that I bring onto my team in my vision so that we create a long-term culture together. And it takes people, what I hear you saying is it takes people knowing the vision and then executing on the vision. So it's a clarity piece and a discipline piece. And I think an added layer of this, and of course I'm biased because I'm a coach, but I see people really struggle and get stuck because they think as a high performer that you can do it all yourself. But think about any person in any field that excels, they have a coach. You're hiring someone to help you see what you can't see. You're hiring someone who's been there, done that, proven, and then you get to get there more quickly and catalyze. So I'm thinking about, for you, those people that, they get to that mark and then they just give up because it's too stressful, and when really it could be some tweaks in discipline and intention and clarity around the vision of where they want to go. And across the board, all those stages really are affected by who you bring onto your team, how clear your vision is, how you execute, and if you have the tools. And if you don't have the tools, how are you going to reach out and find the people you need to help you gain those tools?
Yeah, those are all great points. It's actually fascinating that there's this there's this interesting thing that an entrepreneur goes through, because let's face it, people who start a business, entrepreneurs, whatever you call yourself, you're some of the most capable people on the planet.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to figure it out. And they do. And we do, right? We go and we figure it out. Okay, so why do I need to go talk to somebody else? Why do I need to get help? Well, you don't. You can figure it out. You can bang your head on the wall repeatedly, and eventually you'll figure something out that's better. At some point, though, you will wear yourself down trying to figure it all out yourself, when for, relatively speaking, a relatively small investment, you can get help from people who've either been there before or who are masterful at coaching. So what Dr. B does is help people get super clear about what they want to do, and I imagine help them be accountable to what they're saying, which is another thing entrepreneurs are severely lacking, is somebody to hold them accountable, right? The buck stops here. I'm the one that hold myself accountable. I don't need to be motivated. I am motivated. It's like, well, there's a difference between motivation and you declaring to another human being a commitment that I'm going to go do this, and have that coach work with you to make it happen. So I totally see the value of what you bring, Dr. B, to your clients, and anybody who will acknowledge I could use some help. And oh, by the way, another thing that entrepreneurs do is they don't invest in themselves very much, right? They're like, well, I'm going to invest in this new system. I'm going to invest in this new that thing, but I'm not going to invest in my own growth and development. And the business will only grow as far as your leadership can take it.
Yes, I love that. I think about it as you can only excel or succeed to the level of your weakest link or the weakest part of yourself. So if you have personal stuff holding you back, your money blocks or lack of confidence, a lack of organization, a lack of being able to execute, even relationship issues will cause, especially for a solopreneur operation, your relationship issues you're going to bring into your business. So it's like, my primary foundation for everyone I work it with is to become a master of yourself first. Yeah. And that will help you exceed and go as far as you want to go. Maybe not everybody wants to take their company to on this stages to the level 5 where you're a $3 to $10 million company. That might not be your goal, but even if you want to get to the 6-figure mark, if you want to get to the 7-figure mark, you're going to need to become a master of yourself.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love this. Okay, everybody. So do you want to add anything else about this? This is very powerful, and I'm loving this because I cannot see a place for anyone listening who's a business builder, which is, everyone out there's listening. I'd say the main connective draw to this podcast is that it's business builders who want to learn new habits, skills. And there is a wide variety of people listening that are going to be at all different levels. And I think every person can easily place themselves on this map and see, and it's very illuminating and it helps to gain clarity. So like you were saying, in terms of being intentional and disciplined, part of that intentionality takes raising clarity and knowing where you're at, because you can't get where you want to go if you don't know where you are. So get this map. So tell us again, Brett, how can they get this? I don't know if you call it a map. I don't know if you said that or I said that, but I like it's like a map.
Yeah, I did say this is a little bit of a "you are here" map, right?
Okay,
but it's
perfect.
Yeah, we just call it the stages of small business. I should add the word growth, the stages of small business growth. But anybody can get it by texting the word stages to 72,000.
So Brett, share with everyone what your top 3 max potential habits are that you believe got you where you are today.
All right. So I had a leader early in my career push me to read. And I was not a good reader. I mean, I could read fine, but I wasn't an avid reader. I didn't read very much. It's kind of seemed boring to me. And so, and then, throughout my career, I started to read. And so just getting new ideas from people who have done great things. So reading a lot has been important professionally. I do a daily personal scripture study type of thing that keeps me centered. So, running a business is chaotic. And in order to just keep yourself sane, whatever it is that you go to stay centered, I do that every day. And then in the evenings and weekend, I have dedicated space where business is set aside, and I get to be husband, father, person outside of work. So I think people think that they're doing that, but I because we're so connected all the time, it's hard to make that space. So just make space for yourself to be a person, so you go back in with the energy and wellness that you need to go fight the battles every day and keep a clear mind of where you're going and how you're going to get there.
I love that. In that time that you dedicate to weekend and evening to your time and demarcated from business, do you turn off phone and disconnect, or how do you create that space?
So Sundays I disconnect completely.
Okay.
Saturdays, I will, we'll fill the day with family life,
Uh-huh.
chore, sports, whatever activities. So I have a family. We talked about this in the beginning, in the intro. I have a large family, so I've kind of built that into my life just out of necessity, right? Like I have to do that in order for our family to function. But I
Mm-hmm.
know, having worked with hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of business owners, this is a problem for a lot of people, right? Where they're like trying to do business at the kid's soccer game, or they
Yeah.
can't go on vacation without obsessing about the business falling apart. And
Yeah.
so anything you can do, even if it's small at first, to just disconnect. Clay will, we talked quite a bit about Clay. Um, he'll drive up to his house and he'll leave his phone in the car so that for the evening he's home.
That's
Like, I'm not
awesome.
going to do that.
Oh, that's
So
great.
in the garage, in his car, that's it. I
Wow.
know I'm not going to be able to reach him during that time.
That's cool. And he sets those boundaries. I have some people I work with that they'll say, I just can't, I can't, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. And watch the magic happen when you set those boundaries and people know you're not available. Then those emergencies, the quote unquote emergencies go away and people know, oh, I can't call him during this time or her during this time because I know that this is sacred time for other things that they're doing. And, one thing I do as a transition when I implemented the practice of having my partner when he's on his way home, I'll say like, give me a 15-minute a warning so that I can then decompress from my workday and transition into lovey time, and connection time. Because otherwise, when I work from home, he comes in,
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of doing things, and it's like I think those connective rituals are so important. And Stan Tatkin calls them landing and launching rituals. So when you first see your partner and when you leave in the morning, or your family, you have those special rituals that then help you create connectivity. But as entrepreneurs, if you're working from home all the time and you don't create that space, it's like
Yeah.
work takes over the whole world.
It's always on. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
really wild. Good for you.
Awesome. I love those. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So read. And when you're talking about reading, you're talking about personal growth and development type of books.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then daily personal scripture time for those of you listening, whatever that is to you, daily spiritual connection time is what I'm hearing.
Yes. That's
And
right.
then weekend and evening, setting aside specific time to connect with your family and yourself and your
Yeah.
friends. Okay. Bonus. Okay. That's wonderful. Where can people connect with you? Because I'm sure that there are people that are listening that are going to want to connect with you and check you out. In addition to your services, I've been to your blog. It's very powerful. So there's that piece. How can they connect with you?
Thanks. Yeah. So Elite Entrepreneurs is our business, but entrepreneurs is horrible to spell and bad for a URL, right? Not a good Google search term. So we simplified our website or our website address to Grow with Elite. So you just go to growwithelite.com. It's just how it sounds: GROWWITHELITE.com, and you'll learn all about our programs. You can access our blog, like you said. While we have live 2-day events and a bunch of other resources and programs for 7-figure businesses, we also have something called Elite Access, which is an online membership for those who might be in that stage 3, the 300,000 to $1 million, who have their sights on that 7-figure mark, but may not be ready to invest in or come out to 2-day events that we hold. We do have an online membership offering there that people can check out as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I'll put his information in the show notes, also with information of how to access the map if you would like to, the stages of small business growth map. And this has been incredible. Thank you. Very insightful, very valuable information. And what an honor. I love podcasting world because you get to meet with people that I would probably never get to talk to otherwise. And so thank you so much for taking the time. You've done incredible things in the business world. And it's just been a real honor to be with you today.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share. Totally passionate about helping 7-figure businesses succeed, and certainly love helping all small businesses. So appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. And I will be back next week with another Max Potential Habits podcast. So I hope that you all have an incredible week where you thrive and feel alive. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you're liking this podcast, help spread the word by subscribing, sharing, leaving a rating, and a review. To connect, go to nfacoaching.com, where you can join the Max Potential Habits community and get access to all of my free and paid resources. There's daily inspiration on Instagram, IGTV videos, access to the Max Potential Habits LinkedIn group, and links for working with me in the live weekly Max Potential Habits online group training, the NFA Money Magnet Habits online course, and if you're really serious about taking it to the next level, you can also schedule a Max Potential coaching consult. Until next time, I hope you have a NFA day where you thrive and feel alive.